Have you ever wondered what this little hole on a roof window is for? Well, it's actually a very clever feature that is so helpful. Watch this. When you open a roof window, you may find they're heavy and quite hard to keep still, but on the top of the window you'll likely find a sliding bolt which fits into the hole. This holds the window in place so you can clean and maintain the outer pane of glass without the window swiveling all over the place. Then you can just swing it back shut as usual. I mean, how handy is that? They really said practical. If you've got annoying gaps between your wall and door frames or skirting boards, here's a pro tip for you. Grab some caulk and apply it into the gap, and then here's the game-changing part. Dip your finger into some soapy water and smooth the caulk over. No tools needed. Believe me, your caulk is going to look so smooth and slick, your finger won't create drag marks and you'll end up with much less mess. And that's it, your little gaps are gone. I DIY fitted all the skirting and architrave in our big loft room renovation, making all the mistakes possible. So let me hand over my 3 biggest tips if you're also planning to give it a go. Number 1, don't even bother with a miter box and handsaw. Get yourself an electric miter saw. You can hire or buy one and they cut through wood in seconds. So much time saved and you'll get a nice clean cut at any angle. Number 2, if you're using grab adhesive to attach your woodwork like I did, pop some small nails in the wall when you stick on the head of your architrave. This will stop it slipping while it dries and will keep it level as you crack on with cutting and fitting the legs, and you can just yoink the nails out when you're done. Number 3, order your skirting and architrave pre-primed. It's going to save you hours and hours of work when it comes to painting and finishing them, and it usually only costs a little bit extra, but believe me, it is worth every penny. And bonus tip, I'm not the queen of precision, so I say just give it a go and get a good filler to cover up any dodgy gaps or joins. Believe me, mine were not perfect, but once they're filled and it's all painted, no one will ever know. This is a really handy little trick for fitting architrave legs without having to measure anything. Cut your 45-degree angle in one end of the leg, then turn it upside down. Mark where the bottom of the leg crosses the top of the head of your architrave. That's where you'll need to cut, and once you've checked it fits, you can stick it straight on there with not even a whisper of a tape measure needed. Avoiding those ugly, chunky brush strokes when you're painting can be a struggle, and although I'm no pro, here's what I found works for me. Firstly, much like makeup, good tools make all the difference. A nice smooth bristle brush will really smooth out the paint with minimal lines, and you only need to load your brush up about halfway up, as too much paint can overload the surface and show those brush strokes even more. Secondly, whatever you do, paint in the same direction, so up or down or left to right. Never mix those directions up as you won't get that smooth look to your finish. And really look at what you're painting as you're doing it, making sure you're smoothing out any brush marks in the moment, because when it starts to dry, it's already too late. And finally, just avoid using brushes where you can. On larger areas, the right roller will give you a smoother, more even finish and mostly eliminate any lines or texture problems. I found that brushes are more suited to detail work or stickier varnishes where a roller just won't do. But overall, try out a few different things and just use what works for you. I bought this bargain wiggle mirror, but it was designed to be floor standing, so here's how we transformed it into the perfect wall mirror for just a few quid. This amazing mirror only cost me $35.99 on sale. It was the perfect size for the wall in our loft bedroom, but as you can see, it came with a stand attached. So the first step was to remove this, which was super easy with a little screwdriver. Then we bought some cheap metal flush mounts and used some simple screws from the shed, a stud finder, tape measure and spirit level to begin getting this mirror on the wall. It was being hung in a plasterboard wall, so these bargain plasterboard fixings, just £4 a pack, were perfect. We started by trying to find a stud in the wall, which actually proved useless as our flush mounts wouldn't line up with any. We then measured the width of the mirror, translated this onto the wall, then decided where to place the flush mounts. Once we've marked them out and lined them up using a level, we marked the screw holes, drilled them out and inserted the plasterboard fixings, bashed them in, then we could easily fit the metal mounts. We were going to do 3 across, but decided to just do 2 in the end for ease. From there we used the masking tape trick, marking on the tape where the screw holes were so we could mirror the placement of the mounts onto the back of the mirror. Then all we had to do was use the screws from the original stand to fit the mounts in place. Now this mirror is made of MDF, so you can screw into it easily, but if you are trying this method yourself, just check what your mirror backing is made of and how deep it is so you don't risk damaging the glass. Once the mounts were on, all that was left to do was hang it, and voila, it has worked! A beautiful bargain floor standing mirror transformed into the perfect wall mirror. Here's how to paint MDF and get a perfect smooth finish every time. MDF is a cheap paintable wood which makes it perfect for cupboard doors, skirting boards and the like, but here's how you can make it look $1 million using just paint. Firstly, prime it using a wood or MDF primer. This Zinsser one is a personal favourite, and you want to avoid using brushes here. Rollers will give you a smooth uniform application without without those deep brush marks. But if you do get any, do not fear, because the next step will sort it right out. Once dry, grab a light sandpaper, around 240 grit will do, and give your MDF a little rub over. This will take any harsh bits of paint or rough edges off. Do not skip this step, even if you think it looks smooth already, because this is what makes your final paint look perfect. Then always wipe down the MDF with a duster or damp cloth before moving on to painting. I would then use an eggshell finish paint that's suitable for wood, which is going to give you that gorgeous smooth sheen rather than a rough matte feel. It's also really hard wearing, so you won't need a top coat on light use cupboard doors like these. Then you're done, and no one would ever know these are just cheap and cheerful MDF. Would you try this trick for cleaning your paint rollers? I've shared this method before and people have come for me for many reasons, but it works a treat, and I've even seen professional decorators recommend it. We all know how much of a pain it is to get rollers clean, especially after painting a big room like this, so here's how I did it. I started with a warm water rinse, no soap or anything, just running water through the rollers to get the worst of the paint off. As you can see, the water doesn't run clear, but it doesn't need to, because this controversial bit is going to save you all that time and mess. After a quick rinse, I put them in the washing machine with some detergent on a 30-minute cycle, and when I tell you they come out so clean and dry, I mean it. I didn't put anything else in the machine with them, and now they're completely free of paint. So let's take a look to prove just how clean they come out, and as you can see, they are sparkling, pretty much good as new and ready to use almost straight away. And because of this trick, I now reuse rollers a lot more rather than buying new to save myself the hassle of the cleanup, and they stay really soft too. And no, my washing machine isn't damaged or covered in paint. So would you give this method a go? If you're about to paint brand new plaster, here are a few things you need to know. Firstly, you'll need to apply a mist coat, which is basically a base coat that the plaster soaks up to seal itself in, meaning your top coat of paint won't peel or flake off. It's really easy to do, and there are a few options in terms of what paint to use and how to use it. You can either buy a simple trade emulsion and water it down to a 3 parts paint, 1 part water ratio. This is one of the most common ratios. You can also buy a specific new plaster paint, like I did, which saves you all the measuring and mixing. This is more expensive, but I find it less hassle. This is the kit I used for the job. Nothing fancy, all very low cost and reusable. And as you can see, most of this is already very well used. Secondly, when applying the mist coat, make it easy for yourself. Use a 12-inch roller and extendable pole, as it will make the job so much easier than applying with a small hand roller. Even if your room isn't the biggest, I find this size so much better, as it covers so much more wall space at once. It also makes reaching ceilings a lot easier, and you don't need a ladder. Then there's the painting process, and you still want to treat it like a final finish in some ways, because any lumps, clumps or brush marks could show through, even with several coats of your final paint on top. So really pay attention to any texture you're creating and ensure you achieve quite a smooth finish. I do use a small roller and small brush to get right into the corners, because even they need to be miscoated to stop any flaky paint mishaps. Just 1 coat should be enough. Then once that's dry, you can crack on with your final decoration. Happy miscoating! Radiators are expensive, but here's my secret for getting them really, really cheap. This one for just £78, this big boy for £155, and this triple column radiator with feet all for £170, and all with free postage too. I had priced up the exact same radiator for over £300 before getting this one for almost half of that. And yes, they're always brand new, come from reputable, reviewed retailers, and I've saved hundreds by sourcing them this way. So what's my big secret? eBay. There are always so many sellers to choose from, and the quality has really stood up for me so far. They look the absolute part when installed too, so save yourself the cash and try this little trick next time. If you don't know how to make a kid's bedroom more fun and colourful, here's a really easy idea. You can buy MDF letters online. These are for my niece Sloane's bedroom. Prime them with a wood primer. I'm using good old Zinsser here. Then paint them different colours using tester pots or leftover tins of paint, of which I have plenty. As these letters are really lightweight, just use any grab adhesive to stick them on the wall, either by themselves or under a little something like this rainbow I painted, and voila, you have a lovely, colourful and personal upgrade to any nursery or kids' room. Here's a little pro tip to save you washing up your paintbrushes between coats, because they take ages to dry and nobody's got time for that. Instead of washing it up, grab some cling film and wrap up the brush. This keeps the moisture in so the paint doesn't dry out. You can just unwrap it and use it again straight away. You can also wrap up any paint trays or kettles. The cling film forms a sort of temporary lid, again so the paint stays wet and doesn't just dry right up on your tray. I found this works for leaving brushes and trays overnight too, so next time you're decorating, give it a try. If like me you're not confident with power tools and find them very intimidating, here are 3 very easy ones to get started with. The noise can be a sensory nightmare.
not to mention how heavy some of them seem to be. And that's before you even try to decipher how they work. From someone who's still building up their confidence with power tools, here's where to start. Firstly, an electric sander. So easy for beginners, they sand things so much speedier and smoother than a sheet of sandpaper, and while they're noisy and dusty, you won't regret the results. They tend to work with an easy on-off button, not a trillion confusing settings, making them really easy to control, and the pads are so simple to replace in seconds. This is one of my favourites. Secondly, an impact driver. It's just a fancy name for an electric screwdriver with a bit more force. They might look scary, but if you have weak arms like me, they're great for getting screws in seconds. Perfect for flat pack furniture. The attachments just slot in and look just like a screwdriver head, so you can match the one you need to your screws, and they can go backwards to unscrew things too. Plus, you control the power, so start slow and speed up as you get used to the tool. And thirdly, a circular saw. If you've ever struggled with hand sawing something, then this is a great bit of kit. Most just have one setting, so it's either on or off, and you can control the speed and power at which you slice. Again, it looks scary, but it's actually very straightforward. They usually have a guide at the front too, which you can line up with pencil marks you make, so you know exactly where you're cutting, and they have safety functions built in to prevent any nasty risks. So which is your favourite? I completely forgot about a big detail when renovating our bathroom, but I found a very easy solution for a tenner that saved us right at the last minute. We didn't plan what to do about the join from tile to carpet as you enter the bathroom, but thankfully I found these bargain adhesive threshold strips on Amazon. They're ramped, making them perfect for our different floor heights, and they're super easy to fit. We also added a new gripper rod for the carpet so that would hold in place. We just used a small hacksaw to cut the threshold strips down to size. Then you just peel the back off and stick them down on the tile side. Easy as that. Our bathroom is full of brass details, hence why we picked this colour, and they cover the gap between the tile and carpet perfectly. You'd never guess we forgot about this detail. The strips are only $10.99 and you can find them at the Amazon link in my bio. 9 tips to make your house a bit less boring. Everyone's got their own style, but here are a few design features I've put into my own house that I think make a huge difference. Number 1, painting your doors. This is such an easy change and really elevates a lounge, bedroom or a hallway. Matching your doors to your walls really ties it in with your space and just elevates the whole feel. I even went half and half in our hallway to cleverly blend in with the walls. Number 2, please, for the love of God, change your light fittings. Nothing says landlord special more than a white plastic light. You can get stylish lights anywhere quite cheaply, and it just makes it look like you've put so much more effort into a space. Obviously, get a professional in to deal with any electrics if you need to. And finally, go taller with your skirting boards. Short, characterless skirting boards give us absolutely nothing, but the taller the skirting, the taller your walls and ceilings feel, and a bit of shape detail just really adds that bit of flair back to a room. And you already know what I'm going to say here. Paint them the same colour as your walls to really elongate your walls, and your whole room will just look and feel so much grander. How to get expensive looking wall art for cheap. First, I bought a digital download on Etsy for around £4 and got it printed to a poster size for £11 by an online printing company. Then I bought 2 of these gold frames from Dunelm for £14 each. They are a huge 80 by 60 centimetre size and are very cheap and cheerful. I did spend a bit more on this David Shrigley print that I've been eyeing up for a long time. It was around £45, but I got the other posters so cheap I could absolutely justify it. Added some brass picture chain to hang them from the original picture out, and they do look so good against our peachy pink walls. Right, people make these DIY mistakes all the time, so I am here to call them out. I've been renovating my home for over 2 years now and have learned all the tricks you need to know, often the hard way. Firstly, peel your painter's tape off while the paint is still wet. Almost immediately if you can. If the paint dries onto the tape, you're just going to peel it off when you peel the tape off, and it just absolutely defeats the point. Secondly, stop using 9-inch rollers on a tiny handle to paint a whole room. You want to get yourself a long pole and a 12-inch roller sleeve so you can cover so much more wall at once. It will save you so much time, and the poles mean you're not bending down as much or you're not up ladders giving yourself neck ache trying to paint the ceiling. And third, don't feel you have to keep your skirting boards white. Boomers absolutely lied to us, okay? I love a bit of colour drenching because you don't have to get that perfect line between your wall and skirting colour, so it saves you a lot of time. And it also saves you money because you're not having to buy another tin of paint for the skirting. So if your wall colour is marked as suitable for wood or is an eggshell or a durable matte paint, it's likely it will be just fine on your skirting too. More DIY mistakes that people make all the time, so watch this if you want to avoid them. I'm 2 years into a big renovation and I've learned a lot by fucking up all the time.
So let me share some of my wisdom. Big paint rollers are great for coverage, but a pain to clean up. So don't spend hours in front of the sink trying to rinse them off. Instead, chuck them in the washing machine. Pop them in by themselves with some detergent and they come out good as new. And don't ask why a washing machine was outdoors here. Those were dark renovation days. If you're stripping gloss paint off something awkward like a banister and you're using liquid paint stripper, a scraper will only get you so far. Wire wool will help you get those last niggly bits off. Think of it like exfoliating your skin to get rid of any flakes. Finally, don't forget to caulk. This stuff makes everything look like it's been professionally finished. Just fills any gaps or edges that don't meet your wall perfectly, and you can paint over it as well, so any skirting or architrave looks seamless. If you're still cleaning your shower screen with a squeegee, don't bother, because there is such a better way to do it to keep that glass shining. You just need 2 cloths, a microfiber one and a glass cleaning cloth. Get the microfiber one wet and just swipe it all over the screen. You want to get it smeary and wet, and it won't look clean just yet because the magic is all in the second step. Immediately take your dry glass cleaning cloth and mop up all that water in smooth strokes, taking out any streaks or marks as you go. You can do this on shower screens, taps, sinks, anything that you want to look clean and streak free. You don't need any extra products for this, just the water and 2 cloths. And there you have it, clean, clear glass, not a watermark in sight. It's really quick and easy and much simpler than precisely squeegeeing off water in my opinion. And you can get this cloth set at the Amazon link in my bio if you fancy it. Ranking the hardest and easiest DIY jobs we've done in our house so far. 1. Painting walls. This is easy. I could do this all day long. Just get a good roller or paint pad and some good quality paint and it's pretty simple. Ceilings, however, not so easy. 2. Caulking. Easy, piece of piss. Anyone can do this to a decent standard, I'd say. Caulk is cheap, finishes off any rough edges and just brings everything together. Number 3, stripping stairs. This is a medium to hard. Takes ages, isn't a fun job, but not impossible. This probably took us the longest out of everything, but the end results, they speak for themselves. 4, tiling. I'm not ashamed to say we found this hard. We had so many failed starts, uneven lines, cracked tiles. Maybe it's easier on a horizontal flat surface, I don't know. While it was tricky, it's actually one of the things we've done that I'm most proud of and was so worth the hassle. Ranking the hardest and easiest DIY jobs we've done in our house so far, part 2. Restoring a metal fireplace. This is mega easy. Iron paste is magic for making old fireplaces look new again. You can really just smush this stuff on like it's 2003 Dream Matte Mousse and it's done. Number 2, removing old plaster and Lars strips. An easy / medium, and if you're in an old house like me, you'll find it crumbles off quite easily, but it is messy. Make sure you have a good DIY vacuum for this and be prepared for hours of removing all the tiny nails one by one. Fitting curved wall mouldings, a firm medium. It's not hard to stick them to the wall, but there's a lot of mathing and measurements involved. But once you've worked it all out, the hardest part is over, and the curves add a lovely bit of detail to the room, if I do say so myself. Fitting a plaster ceiling rose, okay, she's hard. Mainly because you need arm strength to hold it in place while the other person screws it in. Let me tell you, my arms were shaking. Once it's up though, the finishing is a piece of piss, and the final look is defo worth the elbow strain. Can you use the same paint on your walls and your woodwork? It's something I've done a lot of in my house, painting skirting boards, doors, even fireplaces, all with the same colour emulsion, and my answer is yes and no. I'm no expert, but here's my real life experience. I always say read the tin or description of the paint on the brand's website. For example, this lick paint we use in our hallway is labelled as multi-surface and is listed as suitable for wood online, so that's a yes. Then the peachy pink Valspar paint we use in our lounge is labelled as for ceilings and walls, but it is described as scrubbable, so it's tougher than your average emulsion. You can always seal it in with a clear coat on top if you want that extra protection too. Both paints have held up so well on wood as well as the walls, so the moral of the story is read the tin, test it out and just see how it goes.